away in Newfoundland's Codroy Valley is a little place called Millville. Travel down the road a ways in Millville and you'll come upon a modest bungalow. But behind that little bungalow, you'll find something that's anything but modest. 13,000 square feet of greenhouse, filled with every type of flower and shrub you can imagine. All this is the creation of Gaby Gale, the Codroy Valley's very own flower child. When Gaby Gale was growing up in Ontario, she hated gardening. As a little girl, it seemed all she ever did was weed.
Well, my mom, she always was growing flowers and vegetables, always. She had flower beds all over the place and she was growing vegetables and she always had me weeding and I couldn't stand weeding. And when you asked me when I was younger, if you would ask me if I would have done anything like this, I would have said you had rocks in your head.
Gaby obviously got over her aversion to weeding and to gardening. Now she can grow anything except a houseplant.
Yes, I kill all my houseplants. I do. I've bought tons over the years. The last time I bought any amount of flowers, I was at a trade show, and I loved these particular houseplants, so I brought back, at least a dozen plants. 3 weeks later, I gave them to my staff, Cynthia, and because they were all looking droopy, and I killed a couple by then, and I just can't. I've tried. I'd love to have my house full of houseplants, but I just killed them. So there's no logical reason as to why I should be able to grow flowers. I mean, I shouldn't be. I mean, I don't have a green thumb as far as I'm concerned. So when people say to me, I don't have a green thumb, I laugh because I don't have one.
Well, how do you explain all this? It was 15 years ago, back in '94, when Gaby figured she needed something to fill her time here in the valley. Her husband was going away to work, and she feared she'd be at loose ends, even though she had 4 small boys to take care of, all under the age of 6. But her husband humored Gaby. He built her a little greenhouse, and from that came this. Valley Nursery, the only commercial nursery in the Codroy Valley, grown from the seed of Gaby's impulse.
I didn't think, I just did. I didn't think, I just wanted to do it, so I did it. My husband asked me, well, who's going to buy flowers? I says, I don't know. I just something I want to do. I says, I have to have something to do besides looking after my kids. It wasn't a job. I needed a job. Look after my kids isn't a job, and I needed a job. So I made my own.
So Gaby had her 4 small boys, and she had her new greenhouse, the thing that would keep her busy while her husband Dom was away. Little did Dom know that greenhouse would be one of many he'd assemble to humor his wife, each one bigger than the last. Till finally, this one, greenhouse number 7.
I just happened to be working in Red Deer, Alberta. I was out there at the time and she seen the advertisement in the Greenhouse magazine. This old German feller, Hans Usher, he was selling out. He was 70 years old. And we bought the works and put it aboard a tractor trailer and sent it home. Took me a couple weeks to take it down. Experience of his own.
Over the years, Gaby grew and grew and grew some more, and ultimately outgrew the Codroy Valley.
That's my personality. I get carried away. I never know how much to grow, and I'm always afraid there's never going to be enough for what a customer wants. They come in asking for something, and I don't have it, and I hate saying I don't have it, so I grow overboard. If I could just grow enough. My husband keeps telling me that I should only be growing so much, and if you don't have it, you don't have it. I said, well, I gotta have it. I can't not have it. I have to have it.
Oh yeah, but I basically stay out of her business because it's all her flowers. It's not my business, right? I just give her a hand here and there with the equipment and keeping things running. But other than that, that's her. When it comes to the business planning or the ups and downs, that's all hers. I stay clear because I don't know much about flowers anyway. So.
We'll see how Gaby handled her growing pains and some other pain life's thrown at her right after the break.
Oh, wait. Here, right here.
When Gale outgrew the Codroy Valley, she knew what she had to do: get her flowers to a bigger market. For years, Gaby's been trucking her product to Corner Brook, about 200 kilometers away. She's already worn out one truck. In the busy months, she'll load and go twice a week. Gaby does the driving herself, but she usually has a hand with the loading.
I'm adding 8. 1, 2.
Her summer staff person Cynthia pitches in, and her sons. All grown now, all but one. Corey was Gaby's and Dom's youngest boy. In October 2008, just after his 16th birthday, he was killed in a car accident. Corey and his other brother were on their way home from Stephenville one morning. It was raining, and the car they were in hydroplaned. Their mom, Gaby, was driving.
We went into the ditch. Well, actually, it was a really big ditch, because when we got out, I was the only one left in the vehicle, and I could see Darcy, and I couldn't see Corey, and I got out. It was waist deep water, and I couldn't find Corey. It took 17 minutes from the time we had our accident to find Corey.
Dom was away working in Ontario at the time, building bridges. He got the news on the construction site.
Well, I was down working on the far end of the bridge, and when the foreman called me up, I never paid no attention to it until I seen the police car at the end of the bridge. I had concern what was going on. First concern I thought one of my parents, because they're up in age. But yeah, I don't know how to explain that. That was rough. It's the kind of pain you don't want to experience, let's put it that way. Right? Nobody, you wouldn't wish it on your enemy.
Oh, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. I wish we had my time back, because he only had 16 years. And yes, lots of other people lose their kids when they're young. But in one way, I'm glad I had the 16 years, but I really wish I would have had a lot longer than 16 years. I don't like driving anymore. I mean, I'd rather have my husband drive, somebody else drive. I still do drive, but it took me a long time to even drive to Stephenville. Just normal driving, never mind driving with a truck.
She's way more conscious than what she was before about stuff and traveling after dark. And then, I don't know, you can only worry so much, because a lot of what this is about what's meant to be is meant to be, right? I get 16 years as a gift of having that child. A lot of people don't get that either, right? So you can't spend your life worrying about what ifs.
you're not given choices sometimes. Either I give up, and which I'm not going to do because Corey wouldn't want me to give up, or I go on, and you got to go on.
So Gaby does go on. She goes all the way to Corner Brook and back twice a week. Gaby grew her flowers first and found her markets later. It might not be the typical way of running a business, but then typical is not a word that applies to Gaby Gale. This Zellers was a Kmart when Gaby first started selling flowers in Corner Brook. She set up the garden center here, which she stocks entirely on her own with flowers and shrubs she grows in the valley. Gaby uses the space and the store gets a cut. It's an arrangement that works for Gaby, one she fluked into one day about 15 years ago.
I walked into Kmart with my plants. I just carried 2 plants in, and the manager happened to be in the store, and he happened to be behind the service counter, and I walked in and I said, would you be interested in buying my plants? And he looked at me and said, yeah. And my jaw almost dropped on the floor, and I couldn't believe that, just like that, walking in with my plants, no preparation or anything like that. And he says, yeah, as we were looking for somebody to supply us with flowers, we're getting them from mainland, we want a local supplier. And it just made my day.
It's a relationship Zellers happily continued, one that's become the cornerstone of Gaby's business. Still, Gaby's never had a year where she sold everything she's grown. She still always seems to have leftovers, which is not good for the bottom line. But maybe, just maybe, this year will be different. The first year for Coleman's brand new garden center, Corner Brook's latest.